Welcome back, YouTube. Next video in this Super Pro 81 build here. I'm going to be putting coil, flywheel, points condenser. We got our top cover and some anti-vibration onto this engine, and we're going to make sure we have some spark. So we'll start with our points. We have several parts here for the point system. Here's our points box. So I'll put that on first. This just slides over top of here. We need to line up the mounting holes, and also for our condenser, we're going to line that up. There's really nothing that goes underneath of this. You could put a felt washer there. I do have one. Let's go ahead and put one on it since I have them. That just kind of keeps it a little more stable. We're going to put our points box on. We're going to put our condenser on. That's just a little teeny tiny screw here. Goes into this hole. And I can probably tighten this down all the way, just because it's not going to move. I don't need it to move any. The points box, I will not tighten it up completely, because I got to set the gap on the points. Alright, so here's that. I've got a couple screws to go in here. These are kind of a tight fit. A little tricky to get them in there. There we go. I'm just going to barely snug that down. These have to move. And here's the next one. Get that one. And these points ought to be set. I think it's 18 thousandths. That's where I'm going to put them. 18 thousandths. And the way you set your points, you turn this cam lobe. I got a little too snug here. Get that spring keeping me out. And just snug this up a little tiny bit. I want to open this as far as I can, so that when it's at its highest point on this lobe, the points open and close. You can see them there. It rotates, they open and close. And I want them open as far as they can go. And I'm going to hold it there and get my feeler gauge out. I'm going to set this on the 18, where the 18 just slides in there. And they're way too big. Way too far. I'll just bring that back a little tiny bit. Okay, not enough. That can be a little tricky, especially once you snug it down, because it tends to want to move when you do that. So I just go as easy as I can. A little bit there, a little bit there, and I'll check it again. Okay, that feels pretty good. So now I'm going to snug these down just a little bit at a time, nice and even, until they're tight. And of course, I'll check it again. And if it's not all right, I'll take it back apart and do it again. It's not that hard to do. Just find the right gauge. And it moved on me. I'm going to loosen it back up just a bit. And I'm going to move that. Just a smidgen. Yeah, it moved on me. That's probably the hardest part about this whole thing. This one's being a pain in the butt, but I can fix that with this piece of metal. There we got it. Check it again. That's really good. You want that feeler gauge to just slide in there a wee little bit. Just a little bit of tension. Really good on that. And snug them down. They don't have to be super tight. It says aluminum for perfect. So we can easily strip that out. So I've got my points tightened up here. I tightened up this screw and this screw. Here's my gap. That top dead center. Then we close. We open back up. I'll check that once more. Heard something snap. Oh yeah, we're good. Alright, so now our points is on. Got my condenser on. I'm going to close this box up. This lid, it just snaps into place. There's another screw goes in here through the lid, and this little hole matches onto that right by your mounting screw, and then it'll snap in place. And we got our last screw here. We go into here, straight through into the cylinder. Now, underneath this flywheel, once I put it on, McCulloch used a Teflon washer. I truly don't know why, because they don't hit the flywheel. But I have one, and I'll put it on. It just goes on top of this. That's all it does. There's nowhere else. Alright, now we have a keyway. This keyway goes on top of, not on top of, onto our keyway in our crankshaft. Now I just use a screwdriver here. You don't have to beat it in there in case you got to remove it. Now you line up your flywheel. It's got a matching keyway right about your, I'm going to guess your 3 o'clock position. There you can see it. Alright, we're going to line that up. It's pretty easy to do. You'll feel it go in right there. Alright, we take our flywheel nut, and it's a clockwise direction. it can be a little tricky. I believe this is a 9/16. I just happen to have one here. Imagine that. Better to use a socket, but I don't have a socket handy. I normally use an impact driver on this job. But I don't have one in here with me. I do have a socket. I'll be right back. Let me get my socket wrench. 9/16. I think I grabbed the wrong one. I grabbed the wrong one. These. Yeah, I know where it's at. It's outside. That's okay. That's a 1/2 inch. I'll just keep working at it with this until I get it tight enough. Got a bunch of dirt on it. A little bit snug. Guess I should have cleaned it up better, huh? Pain in the butt with these starter dogs. Constantly fighting you all the way down. Need an extra set of fingers. I'm getting there. Bear with me. Next thing we're going to do is mount the coil. There's no washer under this nut. And I will snug this up before I put it on the saw with the impact gun. Just a little blip with it. But for now, I'll just snug it up with my hand. That will be sufficient for what I'm going to be doing with it. Alright, so now we need to mount our coil. Our coil lamination gap, I like to use 10 thousandths. I've had a good success with that. So here's my coil. Nothing special about it, just a McCulloch coil. And it's going to mount on here with 2 bolts. Got our grounding wire. You have a 5/16 bolt or a screwdriver, flathead. And we have our special stud, which is used also to hold on the starter cover. It's got a hole in it there for another screw. I'm just going to line it up. I'm just going to snug these with my finger so it stays in place. Now, get my feeler gauge out again. I want to go to, what I say, 10 thousandths. There it is. Not being on the saw makes this a lot easier. Just going to bring it around, put it between the laminations and the flywheel on the magnets of the flywheel. Now I'm going to loosen up these studs, and it will suck it right in there to the exact thickness I need. And again, you don't want these to be super tight because it is just aluminum. You don't want to break it. And there we go. Not hitting. I'm going to give them just a little bit of a snug. Just a little bit. And that's a 5/16 and a 3/8. And that's it. And go to the top one. And that's it. Now we've got our coil mounted. We've got our ground wire on. this is our points. I'm going to take that and just plug it right on there. And then on the upper post, that's where your kill switch wire goes off your fuel tank. So right now, I could, if I can spin this fast enough with my finger, see if we have spark. Put a spark plug on there, and I'll let you know. Oh, I've got a spark. Yep, I have spark. Obviously not a strong spark because I'm just spinning that with my finger, but I've got spark. Alright, so there's my coil, points, and flywheel all mounted. Simple job. Didn't take me too long. Alright, so now let's work on our oil pump. Inside we have a automatic oil pump. I do not know if this works. Again, this was an eBay purchase. I did get me a screen into here. That was a trick. I got it. That's our pickup. But our manual pump goes on top. In this style, the side cover mounts to here. It'll sit on like this, and it's got your screws go on right here for your starter cover, and the extra screw, your top cover, it'll mount just like that. Inside your manual pump, there's an opening here, and here's your check valve. It's this little aluminum disc. Some of them are fiber discs. They go right inside of this guy, just like that. It's mounted right there. No real tricks to it. You've got two screws to mount this, one longer, one shorter. That check valve goes right over top of the oil pickup tube. Again, pretty simple job. Just turn it up right, and you just need to hold it there. You don't need to put any sealant on it. The longer screw mounts into the casing of the oil tank. And again, with these, I just kind of get them started just to hold everything in place. Alright, and the smaller one goes through the oil tank, and the other part of this screw is inside the nut, and it's a lock nut. So you got to hold that, and it's a 11/32 is the proper size for that thing. And again, they're very small. You do not want to over tighten them, but you got to seal this. If not, that's an air leak. An air leak is an over revving engine. Alright, and that's that. There's my manual oil pump. Okay, and my automatic oil pump. There we go. Alright, next thing I'm going to put on here is my top cover. My top cover is held on with two screws right beside the boot, right here, another one over here, and on the back with the little bolt that goes through your vibration mount. I'm going to put those all on. I do not use sealant on these. Some people do. The rubber boot goes over top of this flange. Like I said, some people do. I do not. I've had good success this way, so I'm not going to change anything now. I'm just going to put this back one on first, and if I'm not mistaken, it is a 3/8. Yes. Trying to hurry up here so we don't get too long of a video and nobody will watch it. I'm not going to snug this too much because I still got to get these two. Now I'm going to use Allen bolts. It gives me plenty of room. You got to kind of push that boot just out of the way. And I put these Allen bolts in here, These are originally not Allen bolts, but I like using them because they're a lot easier to use. And I think they're only like 3/4 of an inch long. They're not real long. And they don't have to be snug down to the point where you break stuff. That's one thing to remember. I'll say it again and again. You don't want to tighten too much because everything is aluminum. It will strip out, then you got another job. Alright, that's tight enough. Now I'll get this back part. I believe we can call that game. That doesn't feel right to me. That's right. That ain't it. That's too big. Kind of messing with me there. This has a little keeper on it. The only thing left I can do at this point is attach my front anti-vibe. That goes through your oil tank on this hole here, and then there's a bolt in here. So this takes a little coordination. You have two nuts basically, one in the tank, and your post goes through, and they both are 7/16. I've got two 7/16 wrenches right here. What I do with this is I just line it up as straight as I can with the front of the oil tank mount right here. I'll tip it up, get this all started. And this is a locking nut. There's a washer and a lock nut. And again, you'll need two 7/16 wrenches. I've used those gear wrenches on this too, it goes a little faster. But I don't have them in here. Alright. I get this one here, that'll be the end of this video.